Welcome back, YouTube. We are in for an upper body session. It's actually been a while since I last trained, since I last filmed an upper body session. I think that the last few have actually been with my clients, so it might be nice to just watch me on my lonesome. The last 2 days, so glutes yesterday and today, have been the first sessions that I've done on my own for quite a while, so it's been quite nice. I love training with other people, especially with my clients, and I love training with Kuba, but sometimes it is nice to just get in the gym, put your headphones on, switch off from the world, switch off from potentially coaching mode and just focusing on training. We know that from me starting my social media and throughout my journey as a competitive bodybuilder, training is mine, and that's one thing that I'll always try to protect, because everybody has to have something that is theirs. Any people try to take that away from me, I don't think that that is very fair. So it's always nice to give back to others, and I love to do that, but I also love to train. I have huge goals when it comes to bodybuilding, especially as a competitor, so I need to be able to focus on my training and my own training every now and again, and that's what these last couple of days have allowed me for. Obviously there'll be training sessions throughout the next few months that are with my clients, but the way in which I'm potentially giving back to them a little bit more at the moment is it's leading into the very busy part of the season, so going to competitions pretty much every few weeks, if not every week now, until around October time. After the Olympia, it starts to wind down a little bit, but I've still got people competing all the way through to December, so that will be lovely jubbly to be able to give back to people. We have our MK seminar that we do every single year, where we have people, special guests, that come and educate on the process of bodybuilding, the mindset that you need to be a great competitor. And we're just very excited for the year to ramp up, because it's been almost that season of training and Christmas and all those types of things, and now it's in with a bang, ready for the season, to make sure that everybody can feel fantastic. So we're in for a push session. Well, sorry, I'm in for upper. I don't train push anymore. We've got shoulders, we've got back, we've got rear delts, we've got arms, we've got a real mixed array of different movements. We'll go through each one. We're here at Muscle Bound Gym in Bradford. It's just been nice to get out of Rotherham for a few sessions. It's only because the upholstery on some of the machines are getting revamped. That's why we've been training at a few different gyms, but it's actually been nice. So we have about 4 sessions at Rotherham, then we have the other 2 or 3, depending on how we're feeling, at different gyms. We've got some numbers set there now in our logbooks that we can focus on progressing from here, so that we can have some productive sessions, especially with Kuba's prep ramping up. It is good to keep things nice and consistent, so he'll likely keep these sessions here so that he can keep going. I don't do this session every time, so I don't always come here. However, Kuba always comes here to do his session for pull. However, I don't train upper that often, and that isn't because I'm trying to get smaller per se, little areas, but it's so that I don't really grow. I want to keep my upper size-ish. My traps can fuck off, but I want to keep my upper size, and that doesn't require a whole lot for me at the moment. I mean, my upper doesn't really look like it's going anywhere based on my visuals at the moment, and I'm training it every 12 days. So great. I mean, it used to not grow, and now it just grows when I don't want it to, so that's fantastic. You know, all what we want. Right, we're going to get into the session. I've talked too much now. Size numero uno is a side lateral raise. Usually I do it on the seated prime. We don't have that here, so I'm going to do the standard Atlantis. I was going to do the seated Nautilus Nitro. However, the little friends here have stolen my machine, even though I packed my bottle on it. Doesn't matter, we're not in Rotherham. It is not my gym. And I can't say that that machine is mine. So we are going to do the standing. On any side lateral raise, you don't want to keep your shoulders, scapulars restricted. You want them to move. Otherwise you'll run into shoulder problems if you restrict things. But you don't actively want to let them lift as you raise up. If you let them lift the shoulders as you raise your arms in a lateral raise, you will use more trap than you will side down. Yes, you can't get away from using your traps because they'll always work a little bit, but you want to minimise the amount of trap work that you're going to get. So we want to actively think about keeping the shoulders into their sockets rather than letting them lift whilst you raise the arms up, and then obviously slowly bringing the arms back down. For myself, I definitely used to go too heavy. I think this is why my upper body is growing more than what I want it to, because I'm focusing on my form. When I focus on my form and do it right, I use the muscles that I'm supposed to be working rather than other muscles. So I think that my traps got bigger because I was using a lot of momentum and swinging the movements, swinging the lat rows, swinging the laterals to try and get things moving, and I was using a lot of this rather than a lot of this. I think that my shoulders and things have grown because I'm actively trying not to incorporate my traps by keeping my form good. So basically, do good form, keep tempo good, get stronger, and your muscles will grow. God, I should listen to my own advice. A side lateral machine, you will find that a lot of them, when you drive out, try to pull you back, especially as a small female. I'm not too sure how Cuba feels, but for me, it does. I say I wonder how Cuba feels because he's obviously a lot larger than what I am. So for me personally, if I'm on a seated lateral, I'll shuffle my arms forward so that my elbow is about 5 centimeters to the front of shoulder line. When I use a standing one, I just shuffle my hands about 5 centimeters up the pad. It means that when I reach out, my arms aren't driving back. A cue that we often give on a lateral raise is keep your upper arms slightly to the front of your body. No, you don't want the arms to be driving forwards. You want them still to be driving out, but keep it to the front of shoulder line. If it drives back behind, are you really keeping tension on your side down? Probably not really. So actively try to keep them slightly forwards, still keeping the motion out and in, not forwards and back, but keeping that upper arm slightly to the front of shoulder line. Hopefully I've not just made that really confusing.
Yeah, get into it. Bitch, I'm the baddest. Yeah, get into it. Yeah. Hoes be the maddest. Yeah, get into it. Yeah. Bitch, I'm the baddest. Yeah, get into it. Yeah. I'm the whole package. Yeah, get into it. I got the wrist, freaking it, baby, and I'm getting rich. Oh. Commas on commas, I've been with the shits. Look at me, baby, I don't need no assist. Everything hit, I'm a walk.
Oh. Lovely. I checked myself there because I often have to give this cue to clients that an exercise you actually want to keep it continuous to make it hard, but not to the point where it doesn't have a start and end point. A start and an end point for a side lateral is, start point is here, next to you when your arms are facing towards the floor. The end point is when you reach full range at the top, so slightly above shoulder line. If I'm kind of going like this all the time, the amount of tension that you can create on the muscle for me becomes far less. Whereas if you have that pause at the top and bottom of any exercise, it makes it that little bit harder. We don't want anything to be easier. We want everything to be as hard as possible or as good for the tension on that muscle that you're trying to create. So make sure that you have a pause at the top and at the bottom of every exercise, regardless of what it is. A start and an end point must be had.
I'm sexy as fuck and I ain't trying to chill. I'ma go get me a meal. I wanna see how I feel. Bad bitch popping for real. They wanna know how I feel. Get into it.
Exercise number 2 is a shoulder press. If I was at Rotherham doing my session, I would use the Atlantis press. They don't have that here. They have the Cybex, which is pretty similar. However, I find the Cybex comes out really far. Because I'm such a small human, if I use a machine press that does that, I just feel very exposed, I guess is the word, a little bit unsafe. So I've gone for the flex leverage shoulder press, which I'm very happy to use. I've never used it before. Cooper always uses the incline or the flex leverage, and I've never used the shoulder press, so I'm excited to use it. They're really great machines because they converge extremely well. Like when you're using a dumbbell, you can obviously come out and then in as you press, which works with your fibers much better than kind of if it's just a straight line, which most presses are like. It does make it a little bit harder, but it's nice that it's not a dumbbell press, which makes you feel a little bit unstable. Me and Andrew's just been talking about this. I'd love a dumbbell press if I didn't have to whack the weights up and if it didn't give you that instability factor, especially when you get leaner for a competition prep. I don't think it's a very safe lift, but if it's your only lift that you can do in your gym, you're just gonna have to crack on. I like to opt for a machine press, so we're gonna go for this one. Here, the teaching cues are keeping the chest tall, but not to the point where I've got a big banana back. Otherwise, I take a lot of tension into the middle of my back. Again, I use a lot of momentum when I do that. The idea is to create as much tension in my shoulders, so I don't want to use momentum. If I was using a machine press and I'm very short and I couldn't reach the floor, I always pop a plyometric box underneath my feet. I think it's really important to have a stability factor through your feet so that you can drive through them. Otherwise, you struggle to keep your core tight, you struggle to build your strength, and sometimes you end up with a little bit of a niggly back if that happens, even if you are keeping your tummy and your back as flat and as tight as possible. But I don't need to do that here. We're trying to keep the elbows underneath the wrists, so elbows and wrists stacked. That helps to keep more tension on the muscle that you're trying to keep the tension onto. Here, obviously, it's my delts. Obviously, I'm going to get upper pec, I'm going to get tricep, I'm going to get a little bit of bicep. They are just muscles that are going to work because I'm doing a compound, which is a shoulder press. So I'm going to do it now. I can't put a lot of weight on it, not because I'm super weak, which I am a little bit at the minute, but because it's a very heavy machine. So ego is well and truly crushed. Deal with it. People often talk about how filming in the gym is pulling away from their session, pulling away from their focus on their bodybuilding journey, etc. I've been filming since 2020, and that's when I've made my best improvements from. So I think if you want to be focused, I don't think it's about being silent in the gym. It's about being focused in your sets and not being stupid on camera and taking the piss, but actually still just doing your sessions as you're supposed to be, because that's the unique and authentic version of you anyway, which people are going to prefer when they are watching your content. For me, personally, I feel like it puts pressure on me, and I love pressure, because if I'm doing my set and I'm thinking, oh, I don't know, 12k people are gonna watch that because that's how many followers I've got on YouTube, etc., or maybe even more through Instagram, it means I have to do it right. And not that I don't do it right anyway, but that extra little bit of pressure, much like when you do a competition, just gives you that extra little oomph to add that pressure to perform really well. And I perform the best under pressure. So if that works well for you, film and do it well. Exercise number 3 is the seated machine pull down. I always like to start with a single arm when it comes to lat movements. I don't often start with dual arm because I have great connection with my lats, but I feel I have to get into it before I can do a bilateral movement. So I always like to start with something single arm, whether that be a pull down or a row. Today it is a pull down. I don't actually do any upper back movements because I don't necessarily want any stimulus or progression within that part of my back. Am I going to use it a little bit when I do any type of row or pull down? Yeah, for sure, like you can't get away from it. So I just try my best to make sure I keep all the cues in my head and focus on keeping the movement right to keep as much tension away from it and into my lat. So you can see that when it comes to any back movements, any movement where you're pulling, any movement where you're holding on, I always use wrist straps. I obviously have the ones from Hard Body on here. They're the premium lifting straps. You can get a few different ones, some that are a little bit more cost effective, these ones which are a little bit more expensive, but they will last you for a longer. If you are doing a pull down, a row, an RDL, any type of deadlift, and you're not a power lifter where you have to have grip strength, your fingers are going to slip before your muscle mass gives way. If you're trying to tell me that that doesn't happen, I don't think that you train hard enough. Maybe you should come for a session. So I always use a wrist strap. That way I can take my set all the way to failure. I can work my lat as much as I possibly can, or whatever movement I'm trying to do, and make the most of it. Use a wrist strap, lock in and get to work. Did you see how that last rep was slow, but it was still smooth? It still looked like the movement I'm supposed to do. If I was to take another rep, I'd have dropped my head, I would have got to work with my trap and my upper back and really jammed it through. That's not a rep to failure, that's a rep past failure. What I just did there was a rep to failure. I'm doing it unilateral, meaning that I'm doing it single arm, meaning that I do one side and then the next side. Personally, I start with my weaker side and then my stronger side usually matches, unless I get like a 1 or 2 rep variation. It really doesn't matter. The one thing that does matter is that if you don't feel like you need to take a rest from the first side that you do to the next, you're probably really not pushing the intensity enough, meaning that you're probably not training hard enough. If you're a bodybuilder, your goals are extreme. That requires extreme training. So if you're not quite pushing to failure on the side that you've just first worked with and feeling the need to take a 30-second to a minute rest, you probably need to focus on trying to push that a little bit harder. That is not me being nasty, that's me giving you a tip in how to create more progression within your physique. I definitely started in a place where I trained hard, but potentially not hard enough. And I've been very lucky that people have been able to help me achieve that true intensity. Once I started applying that with great formed training, the progress that I was able to create was far greater. Right, exercise number 4 is a seated lat row. Today we're going to opt for the Atlantis lat row. The only time that I've ever really used this has been in performance. FLF. Frontline fit performance. In Manchester, that's potentially one of my favourite gyms in the country. It's very quiet, but not to the point where it's got no atmosphere. It's nice, I like it a lot. We're gonna see what we're gonna be able to do on this. I'm not too sure in terms of loading, so we'll just take a couple more warm-ups to make sure that we get it right before we get started with the rep range to see how we go. Oh. Lat lifts. I started with a very small back and it progressed to a very large back to the point where my last lot of feedback was that my back was too big. I mean, it's probably a backhanded compliment in a way. But if there's any little bit of advice is if someone's been able to create a really, really bad body part into a great body part, take advice from them and run with it and work with it yourself, see if it works for you. When it comes to lat movements, you don't want to really protract and really retract your scapula. That means actively letting it really drive forwards, your shoulder, and really far back. You're going to use a lot less lat and a lot more mid-back, etc. You can do that when you're doing your mid-back, upper back rows. If you're doing a lat lift, you want to make sure that you keep it into your lat. So actively don't let your shoulder rise. Don't let it stretch really far forwards and really far back. Will the shoulder move because the arm is moving? Yes, but the range of motion is not large. You want to fully extend the arm. The shoulder is obviously driven forwards a little bit with that, and then you want to fully just drive it into the hip. If it goes further back or it's too far forwards, you're not biasing your lat, focusing on your lat. I've been able to create some big lats, so please take my advice. Please use it in your training and please build some big lats because it will work. I just wanted to take a small little cut off away from the video to say if you are interested in coaching with me, I am an online coach. I do work with both bodybuilding competitors and non-competitors. If you would like to inquire, please follow the link tree in my Instagram. Please feel free to DM me on Instagram or find it on my website at www.teamnkcoaching.com.
I'm not picking sides. I got my
Exercise number 5. Dual arm pull down. Usually I use cables that I treat myself to a machine. Because they have a lovely one here at Muscle Band, which is the lat pull down. We have the pin loaded prime pull down at Rotherham, but you can't really rotate your hands to be able to keep, oh no, you can rotate your hands, but the actual machine drives out, so you can't really keep tension on your lats as a focus. They will still work. Here, it essentially is an actual lat pull down. It doesn't really go drive out. You can keep your little fingers twisted in towards each other. It's lovely. I really like it, if you can't tell. I'm madly in love with this machine. I want to take it home with me. It's amazing. As I said at the start of my back movements, I always start with a single arm variation first before I move on to dual arm. I don't find that it's just a mental thing. This isn't science. This is just a mental thing. I feel when I try to do a dual arm lat movement first, the tension and the connection doesn't feel as good. Whereas if it's a little bit later in my session, when I'm a little bit more fatigued, I've got into the rhythm of doing my back lifts and I've done a few unilateral movements, the dual arm, the tension just feels fantastic. Again, like I say, it's nothing science-based, not that it matters anyway, but through experience and training for such a long time, that's what I feel I need in my upper body sessions, or before when I was doing push-pull legs in my pull sessions. So we're gonna get in, we're gonna get to work, we're gonna get strong, we're gonna get fucking massive. Ooh. So usually on a lat movement, because you always want to keep your upper arm to the front of your chin rather than above head, you put it above head. I mean, someone with great mobility will probably be fine, but 99% of us, if we put our arm above our head, likely we're going to see our shoulders lift. We don't want that, as we spoke about with our lat lifts. So usually I like to keep a little bit of a lean back. I still keep my hips under so that my back stays flat and not arched, so you can keep more tension on the actual lats. But this movement, or this machine should I say, almost drives forward, down and forwards a little. So you don't have to do the arching and leaning back because it does it for you. The actual arm path of any pull down for me and how it feels the best is I think about my elbows driving into the middle of my quad and then into my hip. Not past, not just straight back. Otherwise I just use a lot of bicep and I don't need help in building my biceps. But again, this machine does it for me. But if you're not able to use a machine like this, they're the cues that you need to think. Slight lean back so that your arm can stay inclined to your face/chin in the stretch. Shoulders aren't protracting, elevating upwards, so that we can keep tension on the lat in the stretch. And then the elbows want to drive into the middle of the quad and then into the thighs. Again, not thinking or not letting your shoulders drive up or squeeze together, just keeping them inside your sockets, nice and neutral. Oh. I'm banging machines. Exercise number 6 is rear out fly. I used to keep my shoulders forwards, leaning forwards, because I always thought, yeah, that's using my rear outs a lot more. Since I've sat upright, kept my shoulders into their sockets, moving but into their sockets, I definitely now use more rear delt than I do trap. However, because I do have good rear delts, or the ability to grow my rear delts easier than say other body parts, it's not really held me back in terms of progress. So you might be like me that you'll be able to get away with it, but if you're someone who doesn't, you might have to be a little bit more thoughtful with your actual movement patterns. So here, I keep my spine nice and neutral, my tummy nice and tight, my shoulders into my sockets, not hunched up, not leaning forwards, and definitely no active real drive forwards, real drive back. Otherwise, are you really using your rear delts? No, they're very small, so you have to be very accurate with trying to keep tension onto them. So I simply think fully straighten my arms forwards, bringing my arms out. And as you can see, I'm not really letting my shoulders move. I'm not restricting them, but I'm not actively letting them drive forwards and backwards, which allows me to keep more tension in my rear delts for that beautiful back shot, whether you're a figure, women's physique, men's bodybuilder, men's classic, men's physique, even bikini girls, you want a beautiful rear delt. So train them right, train them well, build them, and they highlight and create so much beautiful structure on stage. See, at that point, I would have, before, driven my shoulders forwards, hunched my shoulders up and really got to work with it. Was I using my traps or my rear delts? Definitely my traps. My stage pictures are proof in the pudding that the majority of my work was definitely in my upper body taken through my traps. Train to failure. People get it often confused with training past failure. It's not unsafe to train to failure. The idea behind progressive overload, which is what obviously we follow, is accurate training, so good form, building strength over time, which if you're not building strength when you're building muscle, I think that there's something a little bit wrong. Yes, there's a catalyst, but you will be building strength if you are getting bigger. And pushing to failure. Pushing to failure doesn't mean taking reps that no longer look like the set or the exercise that you're trying to do. It's still looking like the exercise, it's just a little bit slower. So it's still safe. That's why when people such as Jay Cutler, Milos talk about it, I don't think that they have a true understanding. I'm telling that about Jay Cutler. He's amazing. He's my idol. I think he's fantastic. If I can be a female version of him, then I'd be very happy. And he's never going to listen to my videos. However, I think that they often get it confused with people that just train past it. Train dirty, I guess is the word, which is fine. You can do that if you want to. But that's not what progressive overload is. It's training accurately to true failure, not past failure. So it's not unsafe. I mean, doing high volume and the intensity that it requires at the end of those sets is very hard. It's much the same as doing lower volume with high intensity. It's just that people often get what true failure and past failure are, and they're very different. And we don't train past failure, we train to failure, which is hard, it's intense. If you keep your form good, you will keep tension onto the muscle that you're trying to work, and you will make phenomenal progress. However, if you don't enjoy it and you want to do something different, do what you want. But make sure you keep your movements good, high or low volume, make lots of progress, build strength over time, keep the intensity there, enjoy it, get massive, win shows. Exercise number 7 is the single arm lateral raise on the cables. We're using a little bit of a heavy stack, so I'm not able to put any pins on. I've tried to do one pin, but then I had to drop it down halfway through the set. But it is what it is. Pretty similar to the machine laterals at the start of the session. We want to aim to keep the upper arm to the front of the body. We never want to hit that arm at the bottom. If you hit that arm at the bottom, tension's off. So I keep my arm about 5 centimeters away from my quad, upper arm slightly to the front of my body. As I raise out, I don't let my shoulder lift up. I keep my shoulder down. I let my arm come about, 10 to 15 centimeters above shoulder line. And then I bring it all the way back down, rinse and repeat until I've got nothing more in my body to be able to build some big shoulders. That is the end of my upper body session. There's quite a few exercises, quite high reps compared to my lower body days, but a great session for what I'm trying to achieve, which is not a lot of progression, but more just maintenance. As you can see, the lifts that I'm having on the machine is far less. I guess it's because I'm a little bit more detrained now compared to when I was doing 3 presses every 3 days or 4 days when I was doing push-pull legs. I only do 1 press every 12 days. So the amount of load that I'm able to put on the machine for me is far less. However, my actual visual look, in my opinion, my delts look the best that they ever have, but my traps don't look quite as juicy. So I look a little bit more streamlined in my upper, which is great, and hopefully it continues to go that way. I know that I talk often about the fact that that's for the competition goals, but in terms of for me, for life as well, I don't want massive traps when I'm wearing a dress. So if they can downsize a little bit, but I can still look athletic and muscular, which is what figure is, excellent. We know that when body fat is extremely low, that's when that real pop out of the delts really happens. So when I have some body fat on my body and I'm in more of a off-season-y shape, that kind of big delt look isn't quite as prominent. So for me, I actually quite like it. I'm not too bothered about the fact that I need to do that. I was a little bit disheartened when it first happened because I'd worked so hard to do it. I've got over myself now, and I actually quite like it. I think sometimes when the goal is the visual look rather than, I don't know, the, like my enjoyment, and maybe this sounds really vain, especially, I love the training and I love the progression, but I'm not bothered what type of training I do as long as I can be in the gym. Even if I was, I don't know, doing circuits, I'd probably still love it. I'd find a way to be able to make it intense because that's what I love to do. I just love to be in the gym. I love a challenge, and I feel like this is just a new challenge now. My training's still challenging. It's still enjoyable. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. So, yeah, I'm happy. And I enjoy my upper body sessions. I think I crave them, because I don't get to do them as often. And that might sound a bit strange to people who aren't bodybuilders. If you're someone who likes to have a drink and you sat there on a Friday afternoon thinking, what, 1 more hour until I can get to the pub and I can have myself a glass of wine or a pint of cider. That is my feeling when I'm the day before my upper body session and I go, oh yeah, can't wait to get a juicy pump on a side lateral. That is my craving. So it's an obsession, but potentially it's a little bit more of a healthier obsession now. Maybe not before. Anyway, end of my session. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If there's anything that you'd like me to cover, please comment below. Please like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I'll be back again for another video.